Hi everybody, welcome to MyPhysical World. We are starting our cartographic design series. This first video is during the map composition layout phase of cartographic design. So it's not necessarily the first video that you would normally show in a cartographic design series. But a lot of you know your data. You know how to map your data, but you might be having some difficulty in creating a map layout. Now, I'm using ArcGIS right now, but I also use QGIS just as much. So I'm just using ArcGIS for this particular part of the tutorials. So let's get started. On a map layout, you have elements that you put on your map composition. Those elements include title, legend, scale bars, inset maps, overview maps, and logos, descriptive text. Those are all elements that you add to your map. First of all, when you add those elements, you do not want to detract from your data. You don't want big flashy logos and things like that. You want the focus to be the map and the data that you're mapping, okay? Obviously, you guys know that. What I'm talking about is how to balance the look of your map. We'll start with the United States. All of these maps are 8.5 by 11, by the way, just so you know, 8.5 by 11 inches. For you that aren't in the United States and use the metric system, you can convert it to your centimeters. All right, so here we have the United States. It is longer east and west than it is from south to north or north to south. So that dictates my page size. I'm going to make this page size landscape. I'm going to make my page longer east and west than north and south. You can do a portrait, but that is a different map design, okay? But we'll talk about that some other time. So basic logical layout. Let's put a title on it. Where would you put a title looking at your white space? Well, we have a nice long spot across the top. So you might want to lay out your title somewhere along the top that utilizes that space. Now, if title and map is all you're going to show, that is extremely balanced, okay? It keeps your map from tipping over, so to speak. But if you have map data that you need to explain by a legend, for instance, if we turn on like these cities, then you want to explain your symbols, then you need to find another location for your legend. All right? Well, right here on our map, we have a nice spot that kind of resembles this little corner here that you can utilize for like your legend. Now, if that's all we're going to put on our page, it's a little bit off balance, right? Because our title keeps the country balanced, but having legend over here in the corner makes us heavy on the left side of the map. So you would probably want to add something over here to try to balance that out. You can put something here in the Atlantic Ocean. You can put or something down here in this corner, or somehow fill in this area of like the Gulf of Mexico, okay? But you want to balance these elements so your map remains balanced, okay? Let's look at another geographic area. Let's say that you are mapping the interior of a country or a state or a province, okay, or something like that. Let's say that our map information that we're mapping is focused on these three areas specifically Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska here in the United States. But we want to keep the surrounding states kind of visible for geographic reference, okay? It is not against any rules to put titles and legends and scale bars over this information, because it's not detracting from our main concentration of our topic, okay? But you want to put it in a format that is attractive. Okay, I can still see a state boundary here. I can still see how parts of Missouri come up through here, and I can see the boundary between Illinois and Wisconsin up here. Okay, but I can white out this area and put my title in this area. But again, I want to create balance. Now I have a lot of space here that I can utilize, but I want to balance. If I was going to put like a legend or something, if I had room, I could put my legend in over in this corner, and it kind of balances my data between these two elements. And if you have any scale bars and things like that, you can utilize this space as well. Just try to create some kind of balance. You might have to move something over to compensate for any heaviness in another area. But there are no rules about putting your elements right over information that is supporting your data, as long as you're not covering up the actual important information that you're trying to show. Okay? Another example of geography are irregular shaped geographies, such as the state of Florida in this example. Here, Florida it appears to look like it is vertical. It's taller north and south than it is east and west. But really, that's not the case, because this is the geographic extent of the state of Florida. Okay, when I release my mouse, it's going to disappear, but this box represents the geographic extent of Florida. It's a square, okay? So it makes sense that you utilize this space over here for your titles, for your legend maybe, okay? Maybe if scale and direction is important, you would have maybe your scale bar and possibly like north arrow, as long as you're maintaining some type of balance, okay? And then your neat line would be more oriented to a square than it is a rectangle. Even though I have this page set to landscape, my map can still be relatively square, okay? Let's look at another geographic location that is pretty much obvious of which direction that you'd want to map this area. Let's take a look at like the state of California. Here, California is more north and south than it is east to west, so that makes sense for me to make my page portrait, whereas it is 8.5 by 11 inches wide by 11 inches tall. Okay, now where do we put titles and legends and things like that? Well, geographically, it makes sense by looking at the white space. This area up here that usually houses the state of Nevada makes a good location for putting a title or maybe your title and your scale bar, north arrow, whatever is important to you. Okay, I'm going to delete this here for a second. Let's say that we build that shape with other elements, such as we put our title here, and possibly maybe north arrow if that's important, and maybe a scale bar. Okay, create some kind of balance, move your elements around, utilize that shape to add in those elements. Now, why could I put my title across the top like this? Well, yeah, you could, but I'd like this space to utilize, okay? And what I would do in this particular case is I would not put my title across the top. I would simply move my state of California up a little bit so it's closer to the margin, and use this nice little comfy zone for, things like your title and your north arrow and scale bar. Do we need a legend? Well, if we needed a legend, where would you put it? Well, this space right here looks like a nice logical space to put your legend area. Okay, so you have this area that you can utilize. Okay, so well, look at here. If these are my elements, I have another space. Now, you don't actually always have to fill any white space all the time, but you use your own artistic abilities to create a balance in your map composition. Okay, so those are some simple tools, some simple ideas to think about when you're doing your map composition. We will talk about how to map different types of data. We'll talk more in depth about how to do titles, how to do legends, things like that in upcoming videos. I want to hear your comments. Give me an idea of what you guys do, what you guys think. Maybe even post some examples of things that maybe you disagree with me or agree with me. We're all in this together. We're trying to make our visible devices communicate our information the best as cartographers. So leave comments. Like and share this video, and subscribe to My Physical World, and we will see you later.